the most comfortable belief about time is often false. We are used to thinking of it as a track. First something happens, then we measure it, then we remember it. The past, in our minds, is a room locked tight. You can enter it through memory, you can tell its story in different ways, but you can never change what is inside. And yet, when you descend into the quantum world, you discover a detail that ruins this picture with almost cruel precision. There is not always a "what happened" that exists independently of the way in which, later on, information is made physically distinguishable. That common assumption feels perfect, and not just out of habit. In the everyday world, everything leaves traces. Light striking an object scatters into billions of photons. Heat diffuses into the air. Vibrations propagate into walls. Every event is stamped into an enormous number of copies, and it is precisely this multiplication that makes the past stable. It is hard to imagine a story remaining open when the universe replicates it everywhere. But quantum physics lives in the opposite regime. Few degrees of freedom, minimal traces, alternatives that can remain superposed if no mechanism separates them irreversibly. There it is not enough to say, "it happened." You have to ask whether the universe has truly written down, somewhere, a difference between the possible ways in which it happened. The first experiment that turns this question into a concrete vertigo is the delayed choice quantum eraser. The name sounds like a ready-made paradox, but what makes it unsettling is not a linguistic trick. It is an experimental fact. You can build an apparatus in which the classification of an event, as interference or as a defined path, depends on a choice made after the event has already been recorded. Not in the sense that the event changes because the data do not change. In the sense that the physical history, to which those data belong, the only coherent description, does not exist until the full web of correlations is complete. To see why the mind rebels, it is enough to recall the most famous experiment in quantum mechanics, the double slit. If a photon can pass through two indistinguishable openings, it does not behave like a little ball choosing one route. It behaves like a probability wave that explores both possibilities. When the two possibilities recombine, their amplitudes add or subtract, and a pattern of fringes appears on the screen. The decisive point is that the fringes disappear as soon as there exists reliable information about which opening was crossed. It does not matter that someone reads it. It does not matter that the information stays locked in a closed register. If the information is physically available, the interference degrades. It is as if reality itself, seeing that the two paths are distinguishable, stops adding them together. The quantum eraser takes this rule and tortures it with a question. If the information is made available or rendered indistinguishable only after the photon has already been detected, what happens? The typical setup uses pairs of correlated photons. One photon, which we can call the signal, goes to a screen or detector that records its position. The other, the twin, goes toward a set of optical elements that can be configured in different ways. In one configuration, the twin carries information that makes it possible to deduce the path taken by the signal photon. In the other configuration, the twin is measured in a basis that mixes the possible paths, making it impossible, even in principle, to distinguish which route the signal took. This second operation is what is called erasing, not because it removes a fact, but because it removes the physical criterion that would have separated the alternatives. The move that makes everything hypnotic is the temporal order. The signal photon can be recorded first. It leaves a click, a number, a line in memory. For our instincts, the event is now archived. Then, later on, the twin arrives and you choose how to measure it. If reality were truly a film already shot, you should get a simple outcome. Either there was interference or there was not, regardless of your later choices. Instead, the experiment produces behavior that forces the question to be reformulated. If you take all the clicks from the signal photon without distinguishing anything, you see no interference. You see a neutral distribution, as if the system were always particle without fringes. This is a crucial detail, because it prevents any paradoxical use. You cannot look at the screen and, from the pattern, infer what choice you will make later. There is no immediate signature. But when you correlate the signal clicks with the outcome of the twins' measurement, separating the data into correlated subsets, something surprising happens. Some subsets show interference fringes, others show complementary fringes, shifted in phase. If you superimpose them, the fringes cancel and you return to the neutral distribution. If you separate them correctly, the fringes appear. This is where the feeling of broken time is born. Because it seems, at first glance, that a later choice retroactively decides whether the photon interfered. But the interesting part is that you cannot interpret this as a rewriting of the past. The signal clicks are the same in every case. What changes is the way they can be organized into a coherent description, once the entire experiment is complete. In other words, reality does not hand you the story immediately. It hands you raw events and potential correlations. The story becomes defined only when the full set of information that can physically exist has been established. This shifts attention to a concept many find more unsettling than any ghost: physical information as a criterion of reality. When you say, "But I didn't know," quantum mechanics responds with indifference: it does not matter. What matters is whether the information was, in principle, accessible. If the universe has left a trace that differentiates the alternatives, then the alternatives stop interfering. If no distinguishable trace exists, then interference can manifest, at least in correlated subsets. The quantum eraser stages a kind of suspense. The event remains, not narrable in a unique way, until you decide which kind of physical question to make possible. Up to this point one might say that time is not really struck, because in the end there is no signal going backward. And that is true. But the wound is subtler. What we call the past does not always coincide with a list of defined properties, independent of future relations. It is a summary built from correlations. And when correlations can be established or rendered indistinguishable at a later moment, the past becomes less like a photograph and more like an archive that acquires meaning only when you know how the folders are indexed. While the mind is still trying to reconstruct this, the second experiment enters, and it does so with a more elegant cruelty. Here it is no longer about deciding whether a photon interfered or chose a path. It is about deciding whether two events have a definite order. And if the order is not definite, then, before, and, after, stop being a floor. They become a variable. An object. In the classical world, causal order is an implicit axiom. If an operation A acts on a system and then an operation B acts on the same system, the order is A then B. You can invert it and do B then A, and you will often get a different result. This is a mathematical fact, because many transformations do not commute. But more deeply it is a narrative fact. The cause-effect chain has a direction. Quantum mechanics, however, allows the construction of scenarios in which the order of operations is not fixed, because it is controlled by a quantum degree of freedom that can be in superposition. This leads to the idea of indefinite causal order. Imagine two boxes, A and B, that perform transformations on a photon. In a normal circuit you must choose the path. Either the photon enters A and then B, or it enters B and then A in the so-called quantum switch. Instead, the order depends on the state of a quantum control. If the control is in one state, the order is A then B. If it is in another state, the order is B then A. If you put the control in superposition, the apparatus realizes a superposition of orders. It is not that you do not know which order occurred. It is that no single order occurred as a defined fact, until you impose a measurement that forces it. The distinction between ignorance and indeterminacy becomes essential here. If I close my eyes during a match, I do not know who scored first, but someone did score first. In the indefinite order circuit, by contrast, the experiment is designed so that no physical event exists that selects an order without destroying the quantum effect you are studying. If you measure the order, you break the superposition and obtain a classical process, with a defined sequence. If you do not measure it, the process behaves like a coherent combination of both sequences, and this can produce measurable effects. Why should this terrify scientists? Because it forces them to question an assumption that seems more solid than any particle. That time is a single framework in which every event finds its place. Indefinite causal order suggests that, at least in certain regimes, there is no single global timeline to describe what happens. There are relations that, as long as they remain in superposition, cannot be translated into a unique before and after without losing information about the process. Here it is easy to fall into slogans. Time does not exist, or causality is dead. But the experimental reality is more interesting and more unsettling because it is not absolute. It does not say that time disappears everywhere. It says that temporal order, the one we take for granted, can be emergent. It becomes defined when the environment records enough traces to separate alternatives and make their interference impossible. It becomes defined when the system is large enough, when information disperses, when decoherence destroys the possibility of superposing histories. But if you protect the alternatives, if you isolate the system, if you prevent the universe from writing copies of the difference, then you can obtain processes in which order is a quantum resource, not a presupposition. And this is where the two experiments cease to be separate curiosities and become two faces of the same fracture. In the quantum eraser, the problem is, what kind of story happened, interference or path? In indefinite causal order, the problem is, in what sequence did the story happen? A then B or B then A. In both cases the answer is not hidden behind a curtain, ready to be revealed without consequences. The answer is made physically consistent only when you choose which information to make distinguishable. And that gesture, in quantum mechanics, is not an act of knowledge. It is an act of interaction, of registration, of constructing a difference in the world. At this point a question emerges with an almost forbidden flavor. If reality can keep alternatives open, and if even the order of events can remain in superposition, then what do we mean when we say, a fact? In everyday language, a fact is something that does not depend on how you look at it. But in quantum language, a fact is often tied to a kind of irreversibility. It is a fact when a trace has been distributed in such a way that no realistic operation can recombine the alternatives and make them interfere again. It is a fact when information has been diffused, copying itself into the environment like an ink stain soaking into paper. Before that point, reality can be rigorous and calculable, but not necessarily translatable into a single story. This is why many physicists speak of these experiments with caution. Because the temptation to turn them into a simple story is enormous. One could say, a future choice changes the past. It is a phrase that sounds powerful, but it betrays the heart of the physics. No experiment of this kind allows controlled information to be sent into the past. None permits a logical contradiction of the type, I prevented what led me here. The mathematical structure of the theory and the experimental structure prevent such short circuits. And yet something disturbing remains. The idea that our linear image of time is a habit, not a necessity. The most hypnotic detail is that all this happens without additional mystery, without new forces, without exotic instruments. There are photons, mirrors, nonlinear crystals, detectors. It is pure laboratory work. The terror, if we want to call it that, arises precisely from the fact that there is no hidden monster. There is a simple, repeated rule. What is distinguishable does not interfere. What is not distinguishable can interfere. And distinguishable does not mean observed by a mind, it means recorded in a physical way. If you follow this rule all the way through, you arrive at a conclusion that changes the way you think about time. The time you know, the one that flows in one direction and orders events, could be the result of a continuous production of traces. A cosmic factory of irreversibility. Every interaction with the environment creates correlations, and correlations create a sense of past. In a world where no trace were ever fixed, the distinction between alternatives would remain fluid. You would not have separate stories. You would have a superposition of possibilities, and the word before would lose meaning because there would be no stable criterion to say which possibility has precedence. This perspective also explains why our everyday experience is so different. Not because the quantum is confined to a separate realm, but because decoherence is ferocious. Every macroscopic object is bombarded by photons, air molecules, vibrations, thermal radiation. Every possible alternative is immediately recorded by the environment in an astronomical number of copies. It is as if the universe were obsessed with fixing the story. And for this reason, for us, time feels like a one-way street. But quantum experiments are anechoic chambers of time, spaces in which one tries to prevent the world from writing copies of the difference, so as to keep alternatives open that elsewhere would collapse in an instant. And so the phrase, "they break time," becomes more precise. It does not mean they break the laws. It means they break our automatic narrative. They show us that the order and definition of events are not always primary ingredients. Sometimes they are final products. The results of a process of registration and loss of coherence. In the quantum eraser, the event remains classifiable in different ways until you establish which information is truly available. In the quantum switch, order itself remains in superposition until you impose it with a measurement. In both cases, linear time appears as a description that holds when the universe has already decided to be noisy. And here the most unsettling part opens up, because it does not concern only two experiments. It concerns the question they leave hanging. If causal order can be indefinite in the laboratory, then what happens when the laboratory is not an optical table, but the very fabric of space and time? Gravity, in general relativity, is not a force in an already given space. It is the geometry of spacetime. If one day we manage to describe gravity in fully quantum terms, we may discover that geometry itself, the very structure of before and after, can be in superposition. Not as a metaphor, but as a physical state. And if that were true, then the time we know might be only the final phase of a deeper process, an emergence, a convergence of alternatives that stop interfering when the universe becomes large enough to fix its own story. That is why these experiments fascinate and frighten at the same time. Not because they insinuate magic. Because they insinuate discipline. They force us to treat time as something that can depend on correlations, measurements, traces. They force us to separate what has really changed from what has finally become sayable. And this separation is painful, because the mind wants a single story, with a before and an after, with facts already decided. Quantum mechanics, instead, seems to tell us that facts are not always already there, in the way we imagine. Sometimes they become facts only when the universe no longer has the possibility of telling an alternative story. If you have made it this far, it means you love curiosity as much as we do. If you enjoyed this journey, leave a like, write a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It is the best way to support what we do. Your presence truly makes a difference. Until the next exploration.